All right. Welcome, everybody. This is What's Up for You, and it's May 20th, 2025. So I think we have maybe like 15 questions today. Just so you know ahead of time, we might go maybe an hour and 15 instead of an hour today. We're going to try to get everybody's questions in that asked. This time we'll see how that goes. We're definitely playing with some different models right now because the more questions that we get, the more we have to navigate. So anyway, we'll go a little bit longer probably today. So let me just check in first and see if there's anything that I want to share with you just overall, and then I'll have Sharon start with the questions. All right. The thing that I just want to bring up before we get started is there is a lot shifting and changing at the physical level. So, just with the energy that's up and the transformations that are happening right now, a lot of times that will change our emotional state. It'll change our mental state. But when it really starts changing our physical state, it can get a little bit more uncomfortable because we're all very vested in our physical bodies as well. We should be, they're what's carrying us through life right now. And so I just want to point that out because some of your kids, if these questions are about kids or if these questions are about you yourself, might be related to symptomology that's being felt at a very physical transformational level. So we'll see where we go today, but that feels like that's the general energy anyway. The other thing that I want to say to today is somebody just mentioned to me at one point that I don't really speak very much about what happens in these sessions. And so obviously, I'm based on the questions that you're asking, and sometimes not based on the place that you think you're asking it from, but the place that you're actually asking it from. I will tap in multidimensionally with the kids or with the higher self of you and really just tap in and get some kind of response from that part of yourself or themselves. The other thing that definitely happens is there are times when I just have to use light language. And for me, light language is just a way of dialing up the frequency and getting more coherent information from that higher field, right? If I'm just doing it from my mind, sometimes that doesn't quite it doesn't quite click in the way I would like it to. So that's when you're going to hear light language. So anyway, I think that's enough for now. We'll add more on other days. But Sharon, how about you? What have we got?
All right, this first question is, I'm in the middle of a major transition as I prepare to launch a project that I believe could genuinely help people by offering a new perspective on wellness and healing. I sense it will be big and will require significant energy shift to support the visibility and effort involved. What can I do energetically to take care of myself during this process and help ensure a successful launch? Thank you.
One, I'm just so glad that you're asking that question because I think so often when we're individuals who like to contribute to humanity, we very often negate ourselves in the mix. And the other thing that tells me, that question itself tells me, is that it's not just about, how do I want to say this? Hold on a second. There are two variations of support for humanity or healers or integration specialists or you name it. One of those is looking to be of support as part of their identity, like wanting that identity out in the world, and others are doing it as from a place of their capacity, right? So those are two different things. By that, I mean, and I can put myself in both of these categories. For a very long time, as I was working with the kids were working with me. Like they were helping me, in all honesty, much more than I think I was helping them. Initially, they were helping me to integrate. And so at first I was doing this from a place I didn't know it at the time, but really trying to meet my own needs, you might say, coming at it from that vantage point. So what I want to say here is, in this question that you're asking, what I'm hearing is this opportunity for you to come from a place of capacity. Recognize what your capacity actually is. Know that that's something that you can contribute because it is your capacity, and offer that capacity first to yourself. And then it will naturally and organically go out in the world, not as a need to fix, but as, you might say, a capacity to love, a capacity to contribute. Does that make sense? So, and those are very different vantage points. A lot of times when we go out in the world and we support, or we quote unquote heal, we do so from a place of our own need, and therefore very often we end up projecting that energy onto somebody else. I'm not saying that that's what's happening here at all. What I'm saying is that you're at this very beautiful place of being able to fully recognize your capacity and to offer that capacity to humanity in love. And the more you offer that to yourself first and really acknowledge that that's what you're doing, the more this is going to flow with really pretty amazing ease. I'm excited for you, and excited for humanity in the mix too, for sure. Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you for what you're doing.
I'm a registered behavior technician who helps 8-year-old Raiden through his school days. Raiden's therapist has me formulating "do you want" questions in order to get more verbal yes responses from him. My question for Raiden is, what can I do to help you become more verbal? His mom would love this, and or type with more intention and communication. Raiden usually types names of animals he wants to see on the phone or iPad.
Okay, so there's a couple things happening here. One, the environment that the questions are being asked in are can be a limitation to Raiden. And they can be a limitation to Raiden because the environment assumes a certain capacity or a certain lack of capacity, right? And so even what Raiden is actually asking for right now, like asking for different animals that he wants to see on the iPad or on the computer or whatever, what he's saying to me is there's a limit even to what he can ask for. He himself, in the right environment, can ask for much more. He can, but because he's in a space where the majority of the people in that environment assume that his capacity is more limited than it actually is, it kind of shuts him down a little bit. So how do we address that? A couple things. One, I would say to him all the time that you know his capacity, or you want to know his capacity, and you want to see what he knows beyond what other people in his environment think he knows. Right? Say it all. So I would just say it. Just say it out loud. You know, I'm here to trust you. I'm here trusting that there's so much more that you want to share. Not that, looking at animals and those kinds of things isn't, but it's like that's the tip of his iceberg. You might say he's got so much more in him than that. So, and by saying that to him, what you're doing is you're kind of creating this like little bit of a micro environment within the classroom, right? And we can do that. We can put out a field that creates an environment for energetically sensitive kids that allows them to do more in our presence than maybe they can do in the presence of that environment, right? The other thing you might try, if you have the opportunity, is if you can find a place where you go and just hang out with him in your own space. I mean, it can be a closet. It can be it can be a room off to the side. It can be in the hallway, especially as you're starting to develop this capacity yourself. If you can get him isolated, not in a negative way, but if you can get him into an environment where it's bigger, it's broader, it's more expansive than what the classroom environment is, you'll start to notice change, right? And what I will say too is, as much as his mother might like him to communicate, every person in his environment that is asking that of him is going to have to provide the energetic space for that. Yeah. So, and how do we do that? Simply, easily. We don't just think capacity, we feel capacity. We want to see capacity. We want to know and have a curiosity about what else is in there besides the animals that he wants to see. What else is there? And the more we have that as a desire, the more that energetic field is broadcasting from us, and the more we get back. Yeah. All right. I hope that's helpful. Where are we going next?
Looking for a new job and have good interviews, yet it never ends with an employment, even if I'm so convinced this is the job I would really like. I'm getting confused and feel like dissolving. What is going on? I have a feeling of great disorientation, feel foggy. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a tricky time to be solidifying anything right now, on the one hand. And the reason I say that is because, again, back to what I was saying at the very beginning, we are changing at a biological level right now. Like literally our cells are changing. They used to say, we were new every 7 years, like we completely transform our bodies every 7 years. Now, 7 weeks, 7 months. I mean, it's like transformation. And we may not always be privy or aware of that within ourselves, but it absolutely is happening. And so in your case, it's like, I don't know if this is happening to you, but one day you might really want something and really have a focus on something. And within a few days, it's like, is that really what I want? Or is that not what I want? Or can I ask for more? Can I get bigger? And so I have a feeling that some of the jobs that you're going for right now, it's great to interview, it's great to do all that, but let's use the interview process a little differently than you might be using it currently. By that, I mean, as you go to these different interviews, pick out the things that you love, pick out the things that you really are excited about, invite yourself to expand and to maybe consider that you're might be worthy of more than you're asking for. Yeah. And so it's almost like all I feel in your field is your whole field is trying to stretch to match this new physicality that you're stepping into. So if we even go back to each one of those interviews, what did you like? What wasn't so great? And then even in what you like, literally, if you could have it your way, if what was coming back to you was really such a validation of who you actually are, right? What would that look like? And the more you start asking those kinds of questions, the more that right fit is going to come to you. That right fit that's going to allow you to continue to evolve. So, yeah. I'm glad you're going on all these interviews, because to me, it's like, it's not saying that you're not worthy of those jobs by any stretch. It's saying you're bigger than that. You're bigger than that. That's what I just keep hearing. Like, you can expand beyond that. You can expand beyond that. And we are there, your higher selves are just trying to get you into a place where you're stretching yourself beyond what you might have thought what you could ask for. Yeah.
All right. I have a dynamic, funny PDA kid. Though she is fine at her dad's house, it's my home where she falls apart and says terrible things to me and her little sister. I know it's not personal and I tried to protect her sister, but the terrible things she says to me break me sometimes. How can I do better?
Well, you are doing better. It's like just being able to ask the question. I mean, let's give ourselves some credit right there. The other thing that I will say is, again, if you've heard me before, I'm a really firm believer in taking all these opportunities where we get triggered by certain things and just asking ourselves, where are we saying challenging things to ourselves? Where are we seeing ourselves as limited? And there's a couple different layers and levels of this too, because on the one hand, some of the things that she's saying in your environment, she's saying because she feels safe enough to say them in your environment. So there is a level of safety there, of like knowing that this information needs to come out, but also knowing that she's safe enough to say it there because you're going to ask how you can do better. Yep. It's the environment piece is really important. And I think a lot of parents beat themselves up because kids do one thing at one parent's house and not at the others. But I really want us to understand that sometimes when a kid literally like breaks down in one environment and not the other, it's because they can. Right? So there's that piece. The other side of it is if you see it through the lens of, okay, this is a place where you can say things that might be bottled up inside of you and you can't say them other places. So this is the safe space, you might say. That said, two other pieces here. One, is that reminding you of any way in which your inner dialogue toward yourself is like that, or your daughter's inner dialogue towards herself is like that? That's just a check-in point. And then the other piece is like setting some parameters for her around how she expresses that. Just because she wants to kind of data dump, just because she wants to move that energy, doesn't mean that you have to be at the brunt of it. Right. So, she's allowed to get that anger or that frustration out. She's allowed to feel those things. Those things are absolutely, they're allowed to exist. It's just that how they exist might need a little bit of fine tuning. And when we give those parameters, we're also saying, I'm not going to be the brunt. I'm not going to take that all on. I love myself too much to allow myself to be beat up like that. Yep. So I hope a combination of some of those are supportive. And the other thing I do want to say in this case is even if you don't think that she will respond to your boundary setting, you might say, I would try it for a while and see. Because sometimes if that boundary hasn't been set, then that energy just pours out and it doesn't feel very good for her either when it just pours out. It's a little dysregulating for her. So she's got the right environment to let this stuff out. You're doing better. You're doing your part by asking what part of that is for you, that you might be doing better for your own inner children. And then the other piece is setting that boundary so that yes, we've got the right environment, and now we've also got the right structure within that environment so that that information can be shared in a positive way for everybody involved. Yeah. Okay.
All right, this one came with a lot of information. I cut it way down for time. Let me know if you need more information, okay?
Mhm.
Two of my granddaughters, Dylan, age 6, and Charlie, age 8, have had terrible difficulty pooping all their lives. Starting when they were very little, they both visibly held it in as long as possible until they couldn't any longer. Dylan still does this consciously and Charlie subconsciously.
Okay. So give me just a second. I'm just going to pull in some of the information. You don't have to share it with me, Sharon. I'm just pulling in what else they want to share. Okay, so this is a little bit of a lineage pattern. And what it feels like, what they're both saying, they have individual aspects of this too, Dylan and Charlie both, but the general thing is this energy of like, if I don't hold back, something bad might happen. Like that's kind of the phrase I hear. Like if I don't hold things back, and that can be if I don't hold things back emotionally, if I don't hold my tongue, if I don't hold back. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily their energetic pattern, but maybe a pattern within the lineage. Again, we don't have to make any of this wrong or any of this bad. Every single one of us has been imprinted by the lineages that we've come into, and every single person within that lineage has just been trying to navigate their lineages, navigate. So we're not blaming or shaming anybody for holding back or trying to hold their emotions back, hold their tongue back, hold their, whatever. It could be resentment, it could be anger, it could be whatever. I mean, these are all survival strategies. What we have to understand about energetically sensitive children is when they come through the womb of a lineage, they're picking up those patterns of the lineage, right? And so one of the things that I would say, even more so to the parents or to the grandparents than to the kids, is, what am I holding on to? What am I holding back? What am I not wanting to release? Yeah, what is scary to release? And sometimes just asking some of those questions so that starts moving energetically is going to start shifting the energetic patterning of the kids. I've watched this happen more often than not, where we don't even address the conversation around the kids or to the kids, but we really start breaking up that pattern within the lineage. And then all of a sudden, the kids, their bodies react, the bodies respond, and they're going, oh, okay, it's safe to do this now. But without that inquiry, without that self-inquiry with different members of the lineage, it's almost like it's the only thing the kids know how to do. And they're not, like you said, whether it's subconscious or unconscious, they're not holding this back consciously. They're holding it back subconsciously or unconsciously. Well, that could also be the case for people in the lineage, right? So let's bring it to consciousness for people in the lineage and just ask, where are we holding back? Where are we where are we afraid to release? And I'll add this one piece. I think it's human nature. We're very okay with expressing our gifts in the world, expressing the beautiful parts of ourselves in the world. Sometimes unintended, we hold on to our shit. It's like sometimes we hold on to that part where we don't think it's as pretty. We don't think it's as acceptable. And that's why I'm asking that if we just start having that kind of inquiry within ourselves, it's almost like we're finally giving ourselves permission to say, yeah, all the parts of us can exist. It's not bad. It was simply a strategy that was needed to be used through that particular lineage. Yep. So I hope that's helpful.
All right. Emily at age 4 with autism has extreme mold and mycotoxin and heavy metal toxicity. It seems to be the view of many health professionals that mycotoxins are the biggest issue holding back healing, and I'm wondering if you get a sense from my son which toxins are affecting him the most and whether he thinks our mineral balancing detox protocol is helping him, will help him in time.
So the minute this question started coming in, it's like, yes, 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 this whole conversation about toxicity when it comes to your son is a very potent one. You might say it's a very, this is coming to the surface for you all and your family for this kind of investigation. And when he says toxins, he means anything that is at a vibrational frequency that is less than optimal for him being here. And so, yes, mold plays a huge role in there. I don't know if you've had a mold issue or if there's some place that he goes on a regular basis that does have a mold issue, but that looks like that's significant. As far as the protocol that you're using, yes, absolutely helpful. And we know with any kind of protocol like that, that sometimes the symptomology gets stronger before it gets weaker, right? It's like this purging sensation. And for whatever reason, I need to add some other elements because he like jumped right in almost over you, Sharon, as you were saying the question. He was already like, yes, 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 let's have this conversation about toxicity on multiple layers and levels. And so let's hold on a second. He's going 90-0. So let me get him. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Okay. All right. So let's go to some remedies first, and then we'll go back to some conversation about this. I would say to him, thank you very much for bringing the information about toxicity to the surface. Thank you very much for it. The awareness that it's multi-layered. It's not just physical toxicity like mold or cleaning products or, things physically in the house, you might say, items. He's saying, like, as we're thanking him for this awareness, he actually starts to be able to regulate some more of this toxicity within himself. It's almost like it needs to be acknowledged for him and to him that we all got the message. We've got the memo. Toxicity is something we're going to be looking at on multiple layers. And we can't look at it all at the same time because that would be too much. But okay, so physical toxicity. And you're asking him, okay, you're the one that brought toxicity to the surface for us. Thank you very much for that. What's the first place we need to look? And regardless of whether you're telepathic or he spells or he gets a word out every now and again, comes in dreams, you asking him what that first toxicity is on the physical level to address, it'll come to you. It literally will come to you. For whatever reason, I see it coming to you in a dream. And then just focus on that. Thank you very much for that information. Okay, is there anything else at a physical level? And he's asking you to go physical. He's asking you to go physical, emotional, mental, right? He keeps saying he's trying to teach you to collaborate with him in his health and his well-being. And so he's going to bring certain things up to the surface. And then he's going to ask you to say toxins is the overall umbrella. Now, physical toxins, where are we going first? And you're going to engage him. You're going to say, honey, where are we going first? Whether you think he can answer you in that moment or not, you're going to ask him. And because it also is an impetus for him to get more information to you, to make a deeper connection or communication with you. So the toxins, yes, that's one thing to address, but there's a much bigger picture here of what is trying to be accomplished, you might say. I think I told this story before, but I had a client at one point who was getting ready to do some neurological testing on his son and was thinking that there was all this stuff going on that needed to really be addressed. And he was kind of going down a particular line of medical treatment or medical support. And when I checked in with his son said, he needs to ask me what's going on with my body. And he needs to ask me with all belief that I can respond to him one way or another. I'll respond. And so that very night, the father said to him, I really want your input as far as your health and well-being. However you can get that information to me, I'll believe it when you send it to me. And so that very night, the father went to sleep and he had a dream. And in the dream, he put his hands in his son's body, and out of his body came candida, was all over his hands. And so it was that candida needed to be addressed first, not this putting him through all this neurological testing. And it just so happened that the doctor that called him that particular day that he was waiting to hear back from said that he would work with them, but he wanted to look at candida first because, and so he was getting immediate feedback that his son had indeed got that information to him. And as much as I would like to tell you exactly what toxins, are there in this case, this whole experience is really about you doing something very similar where you're really starting to engage your son in his own health and well-being. Doesn't matter what age he is, doesn't matter, but it's almost like, okay, this is where we're going. Toxicity is it. That's the thing we're focused on. And what's the first one to address? He'll get that information to you. Yeah. So, all right.
All right. My girlfriend, partner, and I have embarked on a 3.5 years psychospiritual therapeutic education with the intention to work together after. I am surprised at how extremely troublesome and difficult it is for me to learn from the trainer and to attend the 3 to 5 day residential courses. I feel overwhelmed and deep distress and have come to doubt if my nervous system can handle this education. Is this the right education for me? Do I have the strength to continue the training, or it is important that I stop and leave the training and take care of myself and my nervous system to avoid a breakdown? Thank you.
Yeah, I think you've got the answer to your question. Yeah. It's like like right here, right now, let's just feel into this. So it can be that many of us have an imprint that believes that we have to suffer in order to grow, or that we have to push, that there's something wrong and we have to fix it in order to grow. And I think what your nervous system might be suggesting, and I think you already know this, is that whatever this methodology is, it might have more to do with that old imprint of having to push, no, no pain, no gain kind of, right? So as you feel into it's like feel into your body right now. And if you tap into your nervous system, what does your nervous system really want, need, and desire right now? And is it possible that it could learn, grow, and evolve through that? Oh, right there, right there. So there's something opening up in your heart space, and it's opening up toward yourself, toward you. Yeah. Let me see something else here. Give me just 1 minute. Yeah. That's the question for you, for your nervous system. What does it actually need, require? Because somebody told me a long time ago that there's not a whole lot of healing when we're in trauma. It's like it's almost like we need first to get to a place where we're nurturing ourselves, loving ourselves. It's like the nervous system is saying the inner children within you first need to be able to know that they are being nurtured, that there's a means of support before they really can dig into. The question is can we learn and evolve through nurturing ourselves, through not pushing, through love and compassion and understanding for a nervous system that had to be wired like that got wired like that. And again, that was a strategy. Thank God you did that for a while, right? It's almost like you're not going to be able to solve the problem from the same place it was created. Yeah. So feel into that, see how that feels in your body. But I think your nervous system is already giving you some instruction about what it might need. So I would follow its lead. Yeah.
All right. I feel closed down. It is hard for me to feel my feelings when I feel sorrow. When it is just a short second, I can feel it and then it is gone. I also very fast forget situations and experience where I am emotionally affected. My brain also closes down for activities and thoughts. Then it is just quiet or a melody going in circles. What is your proposal for me so I can feel more alive? Thank you.
Hmm. This is going to sound contradictory to what I just said, but different people, different strokes for different folks kind of thing. And so I'm just reading the energy here. Um, sometimes the way out is through, right? And so this is where, I'll go back to something like the presence process or some breath work or inner child work, where we have a structure by which we can move through some of that energy. Because what we've all been conditioned to, most human beings on this planet have been conditioned to the fact that there are good feelings and there are bad feelings. And the good ones we want to talk about all the time, and we want to, show the world that we have those, and the bad ones we just want to hide from. It's like, and, but uh, interestingly enough, it's the ones that are more, we consider bad or heavier feelings that actually hold a lot of our evolutionary juice, you might say. So, I'll give you an example. I'm getting a repeat cycle of just having this energy of anger come up again. It's like, and hasn't been there for a really long time, and then all of a sudden it's there again. Well, what I know now that I didn't know before is anger doesn't have to be bad. I don't have to make myself wrong for feeling anger in my body or for having some aspect of my inner children getting angry at certain situations, right? But if I just negate that anger and say, "Oh, that's not me. That's not my personality. That's not me. That's not my identity," right? It's like if I just slap it back down and try to put on a different face, then what ends up happening is that energy just gets bigger and bigger, right? And then it's going to break through one way or another. If instead we kind of go, okay, this is the quote unquote negative feeling that I am experiencing right now, and I can stand sitting in this for about 5 minutes, and then I can't stand it anymore. Great. Stand it for 5 minutes, just be with it for 5 minutes. If you can stretch it to 6, to give it, then stretch it to 6. What you're going to notice is just by giving it your attention, when it's asking for it, that energy is going to start to dissipate. That energy is going to start to, it's almost like, think about it like a rock, that's been solidified. And let's say that rock is sadness or anger or depression or overwhelm, or what it can be, any feeling, any negative experience. But the moment we kind of go, oh, I'm going to sit with you for a second. Yeah, it's almost like we're dismantling some of the solidity of that. And then we go on about our business, and then it comes up again, and we go, okay, I'll sit with you for a second. But the more that we just kind of go, okay, you want my attention, you've got it. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to sit with this energy for a second. Very often, what will happen is something else will come to mind, and we'll go off and we'll do something else. But a piece of that solidity will have been transmuted. Yeah. So let's do it over time. We don't have to get it all worked out in a nanosecond. That's not going to happen. But if we do, just simply be with it when it's asking for our attention, you might be surprised, especially in this energetic climate, how fast it moves. Yeah, how fast it really moves. So now it's like, okay, let's look at that anger. Let's be with that anger. Like, let's even like dance it out, scream it out, yell it out. Let's move it. Right. And it's like, oh my gosh, well, okay, why am I so happy right now? Or why did where did it go? It just disappears. It's energetic patterning. So, all right.
My son Jonah, 9 years old with autism, I always try to connect by going to his level with his level of communication and skills that he has required. What are some things I can do to connect with him? He doesn't have much interest besides listening to music or anything music related. What can I do to engage with him so we can start a daily routine so he can look forward to doing things with me every day? Thank you.
All I heard him say is make your life a musical. So it's like you're literally, this might be fun for you and it might be uncomfortable initially, but there are so many kids on the spectrum who communicate through songs and, who will ask you to listen to a song or will want you to play a song over and over again. Very often they want that because that's their way of getting a message to you, whatever the lyrics of that song, are about, are going to be something great to look at. But he's also saying it's like, what if, everything from making breakfast to following directions to talking about school or whatever it is sung. What if it's sung? So he's making it a musical. It just makes me laugh because he's only interested in music, not because it's a limitation, but because he's very well aware that there's something about the lyrical nature of music and that music is not just the words, but it's also the feeling that gets evoked through the words and through the music and and it happens to be a very great way to establish communication with him, verbal communication with him. We know a lot of kids who can sing but can't speak, or don't speak. He's just keeps going. It doesn't have to be serious. It can be fun. It can be fun. It's like, yeah, singing, singing, singing. It's like, and the more you sing to him, even if if I was to sing to my children, they would probably go, stop, stop, stop. So it doesn't matter whether it's good singing or bad singing. It's the very fact that you are singing to him and sing messages to him, and then let him offer you messages back through music. It's a really amazing way for you guys to communicate. It's really good. So, yeah.
All right. My question is about my son Matthew, who is 16. I'm not sure if he can connect enough with his emotions and with his body to fully answer questions. As the puberty hit, we lost the boy who radiated sunshine and pure joy. Now he's quick to anger, and he is difficult for him to get motivated and connected in order to homeschool him and work with his talents. All he wants to do is watch TV, code, or game on his computer. I'm scared I'm failing him. I've tried so hard to educate him, widen his interest, and connect, but it's sometimes heartbreakingly impossible. What does he need from me? What makes him happy? And I don't know if my son has these abilities. Thank you.
He definitely has these abilities, and So I want to say this a little differently than I've said in the past, just because this is the way he's showing it to us. As a collective, human beings, first 7 years of life, first 14 years of life, we're really in this place of kind of exploration. We're taking on information from other people in our environments. We're learning how to be in the world. And as and that learning curve is interesting and curious, and we're hoping that other people are learning right along with us as we're growing, as we're developing. When he's showing me is when we hit puberty, now we're looking for a reflection back of everything that has been learned, everything that we're looking, whether we're looking at it through the lens of friendships or relationships with our parents or authority figures. Now we're looking for a reflection back of who we are. And for children, especially children on the autism spectrum or children who show up differently, aren't able to communicate what they know, and therefore people perceive them as not knowing as much as they know. By the time they get to puberty, they don't have a real reflection of who they actually are. And that becomes very frustrating, very frustrating. So this isn't your fault. This isn't any of our faults. Again, we don't know these things about this population because until very recently, this population has not really had a voice in the world at all. So we're all on a pretty significant learning curve here. But as far as your question around how you can be of support to him, a couple different things. I would literally say that I would say to him that none of us knows what it's like to be them. You don't know, even as a parent, what it's like to be him. And that you're sorry if in any way you have undermined what his capacity actually is. You just couldn't see it. It's not your fault, right? But when we wholeheartedly say, if I missed something or if I didn't see the full capacity of you, if I don't maybe understand the full capacity of myself, which most human beings don't. Those two simple words, I'm sorry, in this case are profound. It's really profound because you didn't make a mistake. You didn't do anything wrong. You simply didn't know. And we're all conditioned to look for that feedback. And if we don't get feedback, we don't assume competence. We assume a lack of competence to one degree or another. And so I would say that to him in this case, in all cases, honestly, but it's very strong here. Those two, yeah, I'm sorry, has a huge impact on your relationship. And it's not about fault, is what I really want to say here. It's not about fault. We're growing, we're learning, we're all trying to evolve. And this is one of those opportunities to do just that. Let me see what else, if there is something else. There is such a desire for tenderness here. There's something about that I'm sorry that is not perceived by your son as fault at all. It's perceived as an ability to grow again, to evolve beyond what has been. And there's something really significant in this for you as well. I think there's a little bit of a mirror kind of scenario happening here where, you know, some questions just to ask yourself or to ask ourselves. I know I'm going to be asking these as well, is, it's like, what didn't get seen for you? What didn't get noticed for you? What did you know about yourself that other people didn't know about you? And again, it wasn't their fault either. They just couldn't see it, right? And so those kinds of questions, there's something big, 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 big is shifting right here, right now, just even in the conversation. If we take it into practice, even more so. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can feel that one in my, ooh, yeah.
Okay, we're going to go 15 minutes over.
Yeah.
So we have 5 more questions.
Okay, thanks for the speed up. Yeah.
Okay, so this person is age 81, and it says, as my body ages, I find it is more and more difficult to stay centered and to maintain the boundaries necessary to allow myself to recharge from exposure to the chaos we are dealing with in the world at present. My sense is that there is some sort of inner work that might help me hold everything in a more peaceful manner. Is something in the way of clarity? Curious what you see that might be helpful. Thank you.
A few different things. So, at the ripe age of 81, you have all this experience of the world and you've been in it. You've been in the world and engaged in it to whatever degree for all of those 81 years. And the way you're showing it to me is one, you've been engaged in the world and you keep flipping it on me. So I'm like, let me get it. Yeah, sing. Okay. This is so fascinating to me because there's a part of you that wants to hear this answer. There's a part of you that maybe doesn't want to hear this answer. And it's good either way. I mean, it's fine. It's like, it's really beautiful either way. And there's a little bit of a humor in it too, which just makes me smile. It's like, not you're not teasing me necessarily, but there's a little bit of teasing in the energy of like almost like, well, what are you going to say? And if you say it, will I like it? If you don't, if it won't be something I like, can I work around that? It's like that kind of energy is coming up. All perfect, all great. These are just different aspects of you. So first, let's acknowledge for yourself that you've been taking in information from the world for the last 81 years, right? And you have a lot of awareness and information because of that. Yeah. Some of that information that you've been taking in and engaging in has really served you. And some of it has been more out of a patterning. So we all get, how like everybody who drives by an accident slows down and looks at the accident. Why do we do that? It's like, why don't we just send some love and everybody keep on going? It's like we're all hardwired as human beings to kind of pay attention to those kinds of things. So over your 81 years, there's some of that information that you're used to paying attention to, and it just doesn't serve you anymore. It just doesn't serve you. It's like, and a lot of times we can think we need to know that information so that we're on top of things. But we can also say we need to know that information so that we, in some ways, can keep ourselves safe. What you're showing me is you can back up from about 80% of the information that you engage with and really just start engaging with yourself, like engaging with you. It's like, and you might say, well, if I'm not engaging with other things out in the world, what's going on or what's happening, other people's experiences, then, how will I know what is working for me or not working for me? What's really fascinating is if we this is what you're telling me to tell you, so don't shoot the messenger. Okay. What you're telling me to tell you is that start paying attention to where your thoughts are on other people's experiences, right? And so wherever I wake up this morning, I'm thinking about my daughter, or I'm thinking about, people that I'll see this week or whatever. I'm thinking about their experiences. And as I think about their experiences, I kind of get pulled into the energy of their experiences. What you're telling me to tell you is to flip it and kind of go, okay, I wake up and I immediately think of somebody else. But before I go into somebody else, I'm going to check in. It's like, well, what do I need in this moment? What am I feeling? What am I present to? What might be supportive to me in this moment, right? What do I need? It's like after 81 years on a planet and having that energy be in all kinds of different places, I think what really wants to happen now is like, no, it's allowed to be for me, about me. I'm allowed to have that awareness be first, primary, and then I have something else. I have a more stable field to offer externally. And it's just a lot of information that you hold. It's not bad or good. It's just that information has been primarily about other people's experiences, and now it's going to be all about yours, and it's going to completely regulate that field. Yeah. Yeah. All right. I'll go faster, Sharon. Sorry.
Let's see. I am 34 years old. For the past 5 years, I've been dealing with chronic illness and debilitating fatigue. Prior to this illness, I have worked as a pediatric occupational therapist and especially loved working with autistic individuals and their family. Despite hoping to return to this work, I recently been feeling I may need to entirely because of the way the illness limits me. But I'm currently feeling adrift. And then she just would appreciate any guidance.
Yeah, I can speak to this one both personally and energetically because I've been going through this myself. One of the things I think that it would be helpful for you to understand as not just an occupational therapist, but as the empath that you are and as the big-hearted person that you are. I love children diagnosed on the spectrum. I always have. They're fascinating to me. I love the consciousness that they bring. And it is also true that there is a lot of complexity in that energy. And when you're working with them day in and day out, you start absorbing that complexity into your body, and if you're a body processor, which sounds like you are, then you will start to solidify some of that energy in your body so that it can be made known to you. And as you work through that energy, you work through it not only on behalf of yourself, but on behalf of the energy that you've consciously or unconsciously taken on. So for people who do this kind of work, it is very, very important that you have some process where you clean your energetic fields daily, right? It's also really important that you do some inner child work, because a lot of times what I noticed is where things would get sticky for me was where I had a common resonance with, like let's say not being heard, the whole population not being heard. Well, we can all relate to that a little bit in our own childhoods. I definitely can and could. So where there's that resonance of working with a child who's never been heard and having that within yourself, you're naturally resonating with that energy. It pulls it into your body. And so a daily clearing practice of some sort, I mean, something like the presence process or breath work, again, those kinds of things are, as far as I'm concerned, that's as important as any techniques that you use when working with children. And it also may be that your body is just telling you, one, you're either have taken on as much of that information as you can transmute. So now is the time to do something else and focus on the transmutation of that energy. Or you start transmuting that energy and you build up the capacity to work with this population without taking on that information. Yeah, because there won't be a resonance. So daily clearing process of some sort, doesn't matter what it is. You can stand in the shower and just clear it out, clear it out, clear it out. I'd highly suggest that you bless water that you drink with the intention of clearing out any of stagnant energy, anything that you've taken on, and also that emotional body work. So yeah, I know that one well, having to do all three myself right now. So yeah.
Do you want to just take this last question? I've got 3 more.
No, let's do three more. We'll
Okay.
do all three.
All right. I
And
have.
if people need to drop off, you're more than, yeah, but I want to get these last three. So go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. My 7-year-old son, Robbie, with autism, is a great kid, but he has problems with aggression. He destroys everything he plays with, toys, flowers, trees, and he just loves hitting things. I'm wondering where this is coming from. And he also picks on his sisters. So the question that she is asking is, she says, Suzy says that our kids are trying to tell us something. So I wonder what he is trying to tell me with his behavior.
I'll tell you the thing that stuck out the most. He's a great kid, but he has these challenges. He has a great kid, but he has these behaviors that are not very socially acceptable, and quite frankly, they're not fun. First things first, we're going to change one tiny little word. He's a great kid and he has these challenges, right? He's a great kid and he hurts people. He's a great kid and change that one word in your vocabulary, and you're going to notice an energetic shift in him, because even the word but negates everything that came before it. So vibrationally, when he hears, then either through, our words or through our thoughts, you're a great kid, but then the great kid part got completely negated. He's just hearing the other pieces. So he's a great kid and he has these challenges. The other thing about adding "and" here is it allows both to exist. So now we can work with what exists, right? It's not a separation. That great kid that he is can actually support some of the challenges that he has. Yeah, we just don't want to negate the great kid. So let me see something else here. So we're going to change that one word, and that's going to make a huge difference. And honestly, I know this will sound crazy in some ways, but he is just so sensitive. He's so aware. He's so clear that, and we can say this with a lot of these kids, that word but, comes into this population. It comes into every population, but it comes into this population a lot. I know you're amazing and I know you must be really brilliant, but you can't speak, right? And all they hear is, I can't speak. I can't speak. I can't speak. Right. And so I'm looking at this for whatever reason with this particular question. We're looking at this completely vibrationally to get kind of the most change for the smallest effort. Yeah. There's a lot of efforting when children are showing up and they're being aggressive or they're being destructive or those kinds of things. And if we just say, okay, they're being aggressive, they're being destructive, they're being those things clearly for a reason. Nobody wants to be aggressive or destructive. So that's just that's an aspect of them, or that is a strategy, you might say, for dealing with some of the things that he's feeling with internally. That's why I think that one change of that one word from but to and is going to make a huge, huge difference. And you guys have been working really hard with all of this for quite some time. And so, although this sounds easy, if you'll just pay attention to how many times a day we say but instead of and, we'll know how much we negate as far as potentials and possibilities. And we're just and we're just going to invite potentials and possibilities. So it might not be the answer you were looking for, but that one, it's going to make a huge difference. So start there. Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
My son Morgan, 11 years old, with nonverbal autism and apraxia, is having increased self-harming aggression behavior towards others. And at times we are convinced other energies enter his body. Is there a way we can protect him? And perhaps some visualization or prayer that can be so helpful. Also, is there anything that I can do for him to ease his behavior? I'm working with energy, but I am completely lost how to help my kid. Thank you.
So I think that last question can also apply here. I think that conversation about but versus and is a really powerful one in this response too. The other thing that we'll address as far as the energies, entities, those kinds of things. Again, everything is energy, everything is based in resonance. So, doesn't it make sense that if there is anger and frustration and aggression, if there are those things coming up, and if these kids are connected, to all kinds of different dimensions and realities, that there's also going to be a resonance with those kinds of energies, right? And so, a lot of times you'll see this go hand in hand where aggression goes together with entities. And so and then it becomes like this vicious cycle, and we can't tell which one creates which one, right? So how do we shift that? How do we first let's cut some cords here because let's just cut the cycle, and then I'll give you some suggestions so that you can continue that. Give me just 1 second here. So a lot of the aggression, the frustration, the irritation that he is feeling, part of it is his because of that. I mean, honestly, any of us who didn't, any of us who did not have a way of communicating, didn't have a way of being seen or in the world, at some point we're going to hit that wall where we just can't do it anymore. You just can't. And again, nobody's fault. I really keep hearing this over and over again. I want us to really drop this sense of fault, because please understand that we're all learning, especially with this population. We're all learning skill sets that we've never had to learn before. They're pushing us to a certain level of depth within ourselves that, nobody gives a parent of a typically developing child a manual. And we know how stressful that can be. So if you have a child that shows up differently, let's just cut ourselves some slack here, because in all honesty, you are learning, you might say, tools of evolution that we have not had to utilize before. So we're going to cut ourselves some slack. The very fact that we do cut ourselves some slack and that we don't place so much blame, shame, guilt, fault on ourselves, that in and of itself creates an environment, an energetic field that says to these kids, you know what? You don't have to put so much fault on yourself. You don't have to make yourself so wrong. Yeah, you're not. You see that if we're looking at it from the energy, from energy alone, if we're broadcasting blame, shame, and guilt, not consciously even, but like if that's just, oh, I feel like I'm not good at this, this isn't, we've got to build ourselves up. We've got to tell ourselves a different story. We've got to invite ourselves to see all of the ways in which we have been strong, supportive, successful, attempting, trying, whatever it is, right? We really want to build ourselves up as parents and as professionals. We also want to stay open to learning from the kids. But the more that we're putting that energy out of, yeah, this is really hard, but I'm doing a pretty good job. Or, yes, I didn't do so well today. I'm open to finding out what I can do better tomorrow. That broadcasts to these kids. That's the message to them that says they can say the same things to themselves. That's going to reduce a lot of frustration. It's going to reduce a lot of aggression, right? Any one of us would get aggressive at some point, under the same circumstances. So this is where I really would invite you to play and invite really all of us to play, because it makes a huge difference. Yeah. And catch those but ands, catch those buts, because we say them about ourselves all the time. I know I'm really good at what I do, but that one person that I couldn't support or that didn't, it's like, let's take the butt out. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Last question.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm gonna really condense it down. So my son is Peter, and he's almost 25, nonverbal. We started at S2C 6 months ago, but not able to communicate yet. I'm open to learn anything and how I can support my son. She says he's high vibration, difficult for his environment. To know he gets extremely dysregulated. She wants to know how to help him ground and how to help his OCD escalates and is aggressive, defensive, and stress reaction. They're seeing a neurological chiropractor and wondering if tuning forks or music therapy can be of help to his body and help him feel more calm. Thanks.
Okay, I missed the two important pieces.
Sorry.
That's all right. No, because I was like taking a minute. First name and age again.
Peter and 25.
So again, it's interesting because this last part of this conversation, it's all interwoven. These last three questions seem to be like they're just building on each other, is what it feels like. So let's see here. So he's had 25 years of not being able to fully show what his real capacity is. And so again, that applies here as well. The OCD piece in particular, OCD typically is the individual's way of navigating all the information that they have access to. So we call it obsessive compulsive disorder, but they become obsessive because they've got so much information to try to organize, and much more information than we even have to try to organize. So again, we call these things disorders when they're actually an attempt to navigate something that is really challenging to navigate. And so let's start there, that energetic shift right there. Your OCD is actually a capacity. It's not a disorder, right? It shows up maybe as manic. It shows up as, but again, if you had that much energy coming at you all the time, you might be a little bit manic about this as well. But the minute, especially a parent, especially somebody who's biologically connected to a child, says to that child, you know what? You might already be perceiving your OCD as a problem to be solved. But I'm beginning to recognize that you're navigating a lot. And some of these ways in which you navigate this, they look manic to us and they might even feel manic to you, but kind of like good on you for being able to try to figure out a way to navigate all of that, right? So let's start there. Let's start by shifting the perception of what OCD actually is. Because even when I say that, he's going 25 years, 25 years. He just kept saying that to me, like 25 years. I've been organizing this for 25 years. And at some point, you got to get a little obsessive about that organization because I don't know how to drop all that information. So the other thing I will say is brain balancing for him of some sort could be really helpful. I really like Dr. Malilo, this guy that I just have been interacting with over the last few months. He's in New York. He has a brain balance program, but whether it's him or somebody else, he's just very knowledgeable about neurology when it comes to the kids. But what I'm seeing here is if we can help to start balance out that left and that right hemisphere a little bit more, that OCD behavior can really start to regulate a bit. What Dr. Malilo talks about a lot is how the right hemisphere is just pulling in so much information, and the left hemisphere, it's not that the left hemisphere is broken, it's just that most human left hemispheres are just not capable of navigating that much information, right? So if we can start balancing that out a little bit, then some of that information starts to, I'm going to say the extraneous information starts to shut down. So we get the information through the left hemisphere that needs to be there, not all the extra fluff that maybe doesn't need to be there. And that can kind of create a lessening of the overwhelm. So let me see if there's anything else. And then, yeah, I think that's where we'll stay with that one. Yeah.
Any last words?
One, I'm sorry for longer, but I think everybody stayed. So that sounds like that was good. Then let's see if there's anything else. You know, I always look for themes that come up during the questioning, and there's a couple in this one. I think that for all of us, looking at that but word, where do we negate certain aspects of ourselves or certain aspects of somebody else? That one little word can make a huge difference. The other thing is, you know, like really starting to listen to, what do we say to ourselves? What is our inner communication? You know, are we beating the crap out of ourselves, you know, every day, all day, and making ourselves, minimizing ourselves? Or are we being kind of like that encouraging parent to ourselves that we always wish we had? You know, it's like, are we actually supporting ourselves? Again, if it's everything is vibration, it just makes sense that as we start building up ourselves, we very naturally and organically start building up those energetically sensitive souls around us, you know, can't help but have an impact. So anyway, lots of love to you guys. Thank you for sticking around. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.